Listen, we got to give a huge thanks to Goodyear because of them, they made this race 10 times more interesting than what it should have been. Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Jed. Welcome back to an episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. What a way to finish off the race here at Phoenix Raceway. Christopher Bell becomes the first driver since Kyle Larson in 2021, not Kevin Harvick in 2018 like how Fox always wants to make you think, but the first driver in the next gen era to go 3 in a row. He led 105 of the 312 laps, but he had to hold off his teammate Denny Hamlin and a hard charging Kyle Larson. So let's set the scene. Ty Gibbs had a brake rotor issue, slammed the wall with 8 laps to go. That set us a 2-lap shootout right to the finish, and Christopher Bell, we all thought he was just going to be able to drive away, but man, Denny Hamlin gave him a run for his money. Both laps, he was just on his right rear corner panel, and right at the very end, Hamlin seemed to have the edge, but Bell slides up, no contact made, and Bell squeezes to the finish line to take home the checker flag in what would be the second closest finish in the history of the NASCAR Cup Series at Phoenix. Not only does Bell go 3 in a row, but he goes back to back as the defending winner of the Spring Phoenix event. Here's a look at the race results here. So I mentioned Bell, Hamlin, and Larson, the top 3. Josh Berry, what a run. In 4th place, he was in the top 10 for majority of the day, and Chris Buescher in the 5th position. William Byron, I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. Alex Bowman, Kyle Busch. Busch and Bowman had roller coaster days. They were outside the top 10 for majority of the day. Alex Bowman was nearly involved in an accident. Zane Smith, somehow he managed to get a top 10 after he was nowhere to be found, as well as Chase Elliott. He did not have a good day, was able to scrap by for a top 10 finish. Ross Chastain, Austin Dillon, somehow he's up in the top 15. Joe Logano on 13th, we'll talk about him later on. John Nemechek, Ryan Preece, who led at 34 laps. Ty Dillon in 16th, Todd Gilliland, Eric Jones, Austin Cindric, and Tyler Reddick in the top 20 after he had power steering issues. Then Ricky Stenhouse Jr., AJ Allmendinger, Daniel Suarez, Cody Ware, Ty Gibbs, and his streak of just awful runs continues now in 2025. Noah Gragson, Michael McDowell, Ryan Blaney, who finishes 28th after blowing an engine late in the race. Bubba Wallace, who was running around the top 15 majority of the day, had a brake rotor issue as well, similar to Ty Gibbs. He finishes in the 29th position. Katherine Legge, we're going to talk about her later on, in 30th. And then Shane Van Gisbergen, Cole Custer, Brad Keselowski, Justin Haley, Chase Briscoe, Carson Hocevar, and Riley Herbst rounds out the 37 car lineup. All right, so let's talk about tires. Tires were the name of the game throughout the entirety of the race. We had the primary yellows and the option reds. Obviously, the option reds, softer, but more grip, but doesn't last as long. And we were all wondering, would they actually work? Or will we see something like what we saw at North Wilkesboro, where they were just going to hold up and made the primaries completely useless? And yes and no. Actually, the primaries actually hung on. The thing is, with the soft tires, and we saw many drivers utilize this. We saw Joe Logano, who had an issue at the beginning of the race when he was penalized by NASCAR for a restart violation for cutting, or at least having any part of his car touch the apron, which is not allowed. It's a black and white rule. His car touched the apron, therefore he had to do a pass-through penalty. He spent majority of the race just trying to get back on the lead lap. Once he did, he put on those red softs and drove his way up towards the front. The problem was we then had a string of cautions, so he used up both of his soft tires before the end of the race. So in that last run, which was around 30 or so laps ago, everyone else was on reds while Logano was on the primary. So the fact that he was able to finish in the top 15 was kind of surprising because he was basically hung out to dry. But we saw multiple drivers utilize these soft reds in order to improve their position. We saw Ryan Preece switch it on lap 14, started 33rd and drove his way up to finish 3rd in stage number 1. We saw Austin Cindric use it to drive his way up towards the field. Same thing with Daniel Suarez. We saw Ty Dillon, who had probably the best race so far, utilize those reds to his liking and was able to get the max out of it right up until the very end, where he had some bad luck luck and was unable to finish in the top 10, which I would have thought he would have finished in, depending on how his day went. So the Reds definitely played a factor. The thing is that it took the soft tires around 70 or so laps to actually show some fall off. And we saw that with Joe Logano. When he passed Christopher Bell around stage 2, I want to say, Logano took the lead on lap 70 of 125 in stage 2. And it took until around 20 laps to go in order for Bell to start running him down. So the softer tire definitely improved, but I do feel like it could have been maybe a little bit softer. We can go harder. We can be more aggressive with this tire. And I must say, it did help the race because, I mean, it's just evident that Phoenix is just not a good racetrack. It's just not. I mean, the tires definitely helped a lot, and I do think that it can improve, and it did slightly improve racing. It definitely improved and helped with the entertainment factor in terms of strategizing, but you know, it definitely, there is still more that we can do with this racetrack. But I still want Phoenix gone. That is number one. Number one, I want Phoenix gone. And number two, I want stage cautions gone because I felt like that we didn't see the real potential of having these multiple tire compounds because we have those mandatory cautions, lap 60, lap 125, and then 127 lap run to the finish in stage 3. I definitely felt like that if there were no stage cautions, you have that natural flow of a race, we could really start to see the fall off there because when Logano lost that lead and he was losing ground to Bell after he took lead with 20 laps to go in stage 2, I would have loved to see if that caution didn't come out. How far back would Logano have gone and would he be able to recover? I would have loved to see that. So that's why, another reason why I would like to see stage cautions gone, because I felt like we would see much more strategy, much more tire management be a factor in this race with stage cautions gone. Let's talk about Christopher Bell. My goodness, like I said, he led 105 laps, led the most laps out of anyone in this race, becomes the first driver since Kyle Larson in 2021, the first driver in the next gen era to go 3 in a row. Hey, Elite Precision, I got to give a shout out to him because I believe he said in his predictions that Bell would win 7 races. And I thought, okay, he's ridiculous. I may shut up now because, I mean, I did not have him winning this race. I knew he'd be a factor, but I did not have him winning this race. And you look at the next few races coming up. Next race is Las Vegas. He's finished twice there, at least in the fall, the last 2 years. Miami, another track he is insanely good at and is a former winner there. So there is a real possibility we could see Bell go 5 in a row. That's a really good chance. He has light up the NASCAR world in 2025. And he's all done it in ways that are just either like at Atlanta, just right place at the right time, or at Coda and Phoenix, just logging, just stick to his rhythm. Don't make any mistakes. Don't have to be super aggressive like what his, well, sort of teammate Eric Almirola did last night. And he just wins. So huge shout out to Christopher Bell. Absolutely incredible run he is on in 2025. I want to mention some drivers. Josh Berry started 4th, finishes in 4th, and was in the top 10 the whole day. This was something that the Wood brothers really, really needed. They have been irrelevant since Ryan Blaney left the team, I believe in 2018 or at the end of the 2017 season. The Wood brothers have been just there, but they haven't been that team that we saw Ryan Blaney made them in 2017. I know it's early and I know it's just one race, but that is a much needed boost of confidence for that whole 21 team because that's something they have definitely been needing for a long time, to have a good race, a good solid race where they're up front, being competitive. And huge shout out to Josh Berry. He really made that 21 car work. Absolutely incredible run for him. I mentioned Alex Bowman in 7th because he nearly got caught up in that lap 10 crash, I believe. There were multiple crashes in this race here today. Let's actually look at that right now. I mean, the big one was much later on involving Chase Briscoe, Justin Haley, Cole Custer. Multiple drivers were involved in this accident, took out a lot of drivers in contention. Alex Bowman was involved in an accident earlier on lap 10, nearly scooted by, but was able to rebound for a top 10 finish. However, you then look at other drivers like Joe Logano I mentioned. He led 81 laps, was not able to win a stage, but I think when you look at the situation he was in, because he was screwed. He was one of maybe 3 or 4 drivers that were out on primaries while everyone else was on the option tires. For him to still get a top 15 finish, I say that's sort of a win because he definitely had a fast car. If it wasn't for that penalty that he suffered very early in the race, who knows? He could have been at the very least, could have had a top 5 run. Ryan Preece, top 15 finish. Again, he was also one of those drivers that I believe were on the primaries that used him up very early on. Again, considering the situation he was in, for him to get a top 15 finish, again, I think, you have to look at glass half full instead of half empty. Again, led a lot of laps, led 34 laps, showed some speed, thanks and help to the option tires. But that was a thing that I enjoyed a lot about this race, was that you saw a lot of different contenders. You didn't see the usual suspects of the Logano's, the Bells, and the Larsons. You saw the Cindrics up front. You saw Ty Dillon have speed. You saw, like we mentioned, Ryan Preece show speed. So I did enjoy that little mixture of comers and goers in that aspect. Now let's talk about Katherine Legge. Finished in 30th place, but there was a lot of controversy around her Cup Series debut. So she started the race around, I think on lap 1 or lap 2, she spun all by herself. But then after that, she was just running her race, very, logging laps, wasn't getting in the way until around 100 laps ago, where she was racing with Josh Berry, who, again, she was multiple laps down, made contact with the 21 car, spun, and Daniel Suarez, who was running the top 10, just slams right into the side of her car. I mean, absolutely nothing Suarez could do, and both of their days were done. And there was a lot of controversy around her about, why did she get to compete in the race and why not Mike Wallace? And multiple things that I have to say about that. The first one, number one, I can understand the backlash, or I can understand, not understanding why did Katherine get a ride and why not, and not Mike Wallace. Fine. But as per usual, there is a part of our fan base that takes it way too far, that choose to go to a sexist and misogynistic route, calling her a DEI driver, calling her on how she has no credentials, has done nothing warranted to be in the Cup Series. And also going as far as to say that she's a bad driver, she has done nothing in her career, which is absolutely just stupid. She's a multiple-time IMSA winner. She's competing in the Indy 500. She's competed across various racing divisions and has done well in those said various racing divisions. Number 2, Mike Wallace wanted to compete in the Daytona 500, a 2.5 mile super speedway. We didn't want another Derek Cope 2021. This is a 1 mile track. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, NASCAR did say to Mike Wallace, yeah, listen, you're going to have to you haven't competed in a NASCAR sanctioned race since 2020 in 5 years. You can come back, but you have to have either A, some type of relative racing experiences on a top level, or B, run some short tracks or run some road courses to get accustomed to a NASCAR stock car. Ella Castroneves, again, competing in the Indy 500, that makes more sense if you want to have that argument about, why did Castroneves get a ride and why not Mike Wallace? The Castroneves one makes more sense to have an argument because Castroneves hadn't competed at all in any stock car racing experience except for one ARCA race and then the Daytona 500. But with Katherine, she has competed not only in the Indy 500, she's competed also at the Royal 24 at Daytona. So she's competed very recently in top level racing events. On top of that, she's also competed in road courses and short tracks for the Xfinity Series, most notably 2023 at Road America and the 2025 ARCA race in Daytona. So she has recent experience. Not only that, why are we acting as if she's the first driver to do this? I mean, I can remember plenty of situations where lap cars with very little experience have gotten in a car and have either done some stupid shit or even just lap cars in general, like Cody Ware or some drivers like that, backmarker drivers that have crashed and has ruined lead lap drivers' days. But it's never been as far as like this. Those are treated as just racing incidents. But with Katherine, I've been seeing more of the misogynistic and the sexist comments rather than just simply looking at it as a racing thing. She's not the first and she won't be the last. And how do we know that Mike Wallace wouldn't do the same thing? It's ridiculous. I can understand you questioning why did she get the ride based on her lack of stock car experience. I can understand that. But taking it too far into basing it on her sex is just, well, stupid, sexist, simple as that. So yeah, I just had to get that off my chest because it was really annoying seeing how some people were responding to it. As for the race itself, like I said, it made Phoenix a lot better, the new tire compound, but it was all right. I would give this maybe a 7 out of 10. It wasn't the most exciting, but again, this is for Phoenix standards. I thought I did the job and I was very interested in the different types of tire strategies. And this is a good baseline with the softer tire, but I think we can be a bit more aggressive with it. My opinion. As for the broadcast itself, just a little quick side note on Fox. Again, I cannot wait till the Coke 600 where we're done with Fox, because production was on one thing and the booth was on another thing. I mean, the production would show things that had nothing to do with, again, what the Fox booth was talking about. The booth and the production were not on the same level. Not to mention, it was very hard not to know who was on the option tires and who was on the primaries. Not like what NBC does. They had a full bar, like their leaderboard, constantly showing who was on what. With Fox, they would show it occasionally every now and then, but you kind of had to think yourself, hey, who's starting where? I had to go on Twitter multiple times to see, hey, what did Bob Parkers or Jeff Gluck say? Because I don't know who's starting on what tire. To end it off, the tires, I feel like did the job, but we can be more aggressive. And number two, please, for 2026, have Homestead being the final race. Please, I beg of you. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this race? Let me know in the comment section down below. Until next time, my name is Jet from MDK. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.